In this video tutorial, we will show how to create new player controller. Aurora FPS Engine out of box supports players based on character controller and rigid body. To create new player, go to the tab Aurora FPS Engine, Create, Controller. Use character controller if your game does not involve realistic player interactions with physics and physical objects, while the rigid body will react very precisely and even use the physics material property to calculate the reaction. For example, by changing the general property of gravity in the game world, it will change the behavior of all physical objects, including the player based on rigid body. This will not affect the player based on the character controller. You can choose any player at the initial stage of development. Both players are supported by all internal systems and support common functions. For example, let's create a player based on rigid body. After selecting one of the types, the player will automatically be created at the scene and will be immediately ready for use without any additional settings on your part. Both controllers are extremely flexible and fully editable. You can customize it for any type and genre of game. In order to change the configuration of the player's camera, use first-person camera component. For example, if we want to change the sensitivity of the camera, go to the Input Settings section and change the sensitivity of the camera along the X and/or Y axis. Do you want to change the zooming parameters? Just go to the Zoom Settings section. Do you want to add a smoothing effect? Go to the Control Settings section and edit the rotation smooth of the camera along the X and/or Y axis. A description of all fields and settings can be found in the documentation. In order to change the configuration of the player controller, use First-Person Controller component. You can easily adjust parameters such as speed, jump, gravity, and etc. The jump settings can even contain the indulgent time parameter, which describes how many seconds after the player becomes in the air can still have time to press the jump button and jump. There are a lot of similar functions and settings to configure. In this way, the Aurora FPS Engine provides a huge range of opportunities for game design. Well, we figured out how the player works. Let's look at how to change the key binding or adapt the controls for consoles and gamepads. To do this, just go to the tab Aurora FPS Engine, Input, Open Input Map. Here you can see maps, actions, and their properties. If we open the player's map, all the actions that are tied to the player can be found here. For example, movement vertical, an action describing forward and backward movement. Let's open it. The keyboard and gamepad are set by default. Let's open Keyboard Binding. Positive, moving forward. Negative, moving backward. The W key is attached to the move forward. To change it to another one, click on W key binding, click on Path field, click on Listen button, press the desired key on the keyboard and it will be automatically determined. Select the found key. Similarly, you can change any other key in any other action. If you want to add support for a new device, for example, adapt the controls for PlayStation or Xbox console gamepads, opposite the name of the action, press the plus button. Click Add Binding option. Select the desired input from the device. Similarly, you can do for any other action. As you can see, working with the Aurora FPS Engine is very easy and simple. This is an extremely powerful solution for creating games while having a very simple and intuitive interface. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos.